Imagine this for a moment. You are standing inside a circle of fire. The flames dance around you, flickering shadows across walls marked with strange, ancient symbols. Cloaked figures chant in a language you do not understand, their voices rising and falling like waves pulling you deeper into an unseen current. The air itself feels heavy, vibrating with something beyond human hearing. Then it happens. The atmosphere cracks. A figure appears where no one was before, its body half-shrouded, its form not quite solid. For an instant, your mind insists you must be dreaming, but your body knows the truth. Your heart races, your skin trembles, and deep inside, your instincts scream. Something from another world has stepped into this one. This is the Shadow Realm. For thousands of years, whispers of this hidden dimension have surfaced in sacred texts, myths, and forbidden lore. Ancient shamans spoke of spirits who fed on human suffering. Gnostic writings warned of archons, parasites in disguise. In the deserts of Arabia, people called them the jinn. In Christianity, they were demons. In modern times, scientists dismiss them as hallucinations or folklore. But across cultures and centuries, one truth echoes. These entities exist just outside the sliver of reality our eyes can see. And here lies the most unsettling question. Why do the elites, the rulers of empires, the architects of nations, the secret societies behind power, worship them? To answer that, we must first face a revelation most refuse to even consider. The universe is not what we think. What you see with your eyes, the colors, the shapes, the familiar solidity of the room around you, is not reality in its fullness. Science itself admits this. Human sight perceives only a fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum, less than 0 braces, doubly 5% of what exists. Think about that. Out of the infinite ocean of frequencies vibrating through the cosmos, you see just a single droplet. What else moves in the waves you cannot sense? What else watches you from just beyond the veil? The elites know. They have always known. Through rituals, dark ceremonies passed down through priesthoods, mystery schools, and occult orders, they learned to open doorways. In forests, in caves, in hidden chambers beneath ancient temples, they discovered how to weaken the boundary between our visible world and the shadow realm. And when the boundary thins, entities emerge. But these are not benevolent gods. They do not bring enlightenment or compassion. They crave something far more sinister. They feed on fear, despair, suffering, the lowest vibrations of human energy. The rituals are not just spectacles of cruelty, they are harvests. This is why blood is spilled. This is why terror is invoked. And this is why adrenochrome, the chemical born from extreme fear, became the forbidden sacrament of their cult. It is the key that both fuels these entities and intoxicates the humans who serve them. The question you must ask is simple, yet terrifying. What kind of beings would demand such offerings, and what kind of people would obey? Tonight, we will walk into the shadows they hide behind. We will uncover the astral agenda, the bloodlines that guard its secret, and the truth of why the world you live in is drenched in chaos. Remember this as we begin. The Shadow Realm does not fear your power, it fears your awareness. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. When you look around the room you sit in right now, you believe you are seeing everything. Walls, furniture, the glow of a screen, the familiar outlines of your world. But here is the first crack in the illusion. You are not seeing everything. You are seeing almost nothing. Science itself confesses this uncomfortable truth. The visible light spectrum, the tiny band of frequencies human eyes can detect, is less than a fragment of reality, about 0 Brock, doubly 0.05% of the electromagnetic spectrum. Imagine the universe as a vast ocean stretching into eternity. Human sight. It is one drop of water from that ocean. And yet we are taught, conditioned, even mocked into believing that this droplet is all that exists. Now consider this. What moves in the waters we cannot see? What currents run through that hidden ocean, shaping lives, nations, destinies, without our awareness? This is the territory of the astral world. The astral is not fantasy. It is not the product of wild imagination. It is a dimension of frequency, interwoven with our own, sharing the same space but vibrating on a slightly different level, just as countless radio stations transmit through the air at once, unseen until tuned in. For most of us, our senses are tuned to the narrow band of the physical. But there are cracks, moments when the astral bleeds through, shadows that move without light, whispers that have no source, entities that step forward and then vanish again. To the unprepared, such experiences seem impossible. But to shamans, mystics, and occult adepts across history, this has always been reality. They spoke of it openly, they warned of it, and they described its inhabitants. The Gnostics, the early seekers of hidden wisdom, called them archons, parasitic rulers who manipulate humanity from the shadows. They even named their chief, Yaldabaoth, the demiurge, a false god who enslaves through deception. In the deserts of Arabia, long before Islam crystallized, people whispered of the jinn beings of smokeless fire who could take human form, deceive, and feed on human weakness. Christianity inherited the language of demons and the devil, describing entities that tempt, corrupt, and thrive on suffering. Travel to the mountains of South America, and you find shamans who speak of spirit parasites, unseen predators that latch onto human fear and drink it like nectar. Different names, different myths. But peel away the cultural mask, and the pattern is identical. Non-human entities exist beside us, feeding on us, steering human history toward their design. Now imagine the elites, the kings, the secret societies, the priesthoods who have guarded ancient knowledge. They know this truth. They do not dismiss it as superstition. They study it. They exploit it. They learned that rituals, especially those drenched in suffering, act as tuning forks, vibrating reality in such a way that the astral realm overlaps with ours. In those moments, doors open, and through those doors, the entities step in. Why do they come? Not to share wisdom, not to guide humanity toward light. They come to feed. Fear, despair, hatred. These are not just emotions, they are energy frequencies. And just as a plant turns sunlight into food, these astral predators turn fear into sustenance. Think of it, every war, every slaughterhouse, every act of abuse, every ritual sacrifice. Each one radiates waves of terror into the unseen spectrum. And like moths to flame, the astral entities gather. To them, humanity is not a species of sovereign beings. We are a herd. We are their cattle. This is why the world never finds peace. Why conflict is constant. Why societies are deliberately fractured, divided by race, by creed, by politics, by anything that will ensure perpetual tension. It is not random. It is not human incompetence. It is a harvest system. You can almost hear the echo of Morpheus from The Matrix, holding up the battery. The Matrix is a system that turns humans into this. But here, the system is not digital. It is energetic, a farm of fear. And if you still wonder whether this is only metaphor, consider the testimonies that surface from those who stumble too close to the truth. Survivors of occult rituals describe apparitions, figures materializing out of thin air, watching as blood is spilled, as screams rise. Always watching, always feeding. The elites themselves live in terror of their own masters. This is the hierarchy of fear. The masses fear governments. Governments fear the hidden elite, the elite fear the shadow priests, and at the top, at the very center of this inverted pyramid, the occult cult trembles before the astral lords they dare to call gods. But gods they are not. They are parasites dressed in divinity, so why worship them? Because fear is the currency of control. The cultists believe that by serving these entities, by offering them energy and sacrifice, they will be granted power in this world. Thrones, crowns, dynasties, empires, all bought with blood. The astral world is not a distant heaven or hell. It is here, around you, within reach, overlapping your breath and heartbeat. It is the shadow realm, and its inhabitants have ruled unseen for centuries. The question is not whether they exist. The question is how much longer humanity will allow them to feed. Picture a circle of hooded figures deep inside a forest. Torches burn, their flames licking the night air, casting monstrous shadows against the trees. A drum begins, slow, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. The chanting rises. The atmosphere thickens, humming with electricity. Then, in the center of the circle, a scream splits the night. This is not theater. This is not superstition. This is the true engine of power, ritual. For millennia, secret societies and hidden cults have practiced ceremonies designed to pierce the veil between worlds. These are not random traditions. They are calculated acts of frequency manipulation. When terror is invoked, through pain, through sacrifice, the human body radiates a powerful, low-frequency energy. Fear floods the air like smoke, and in that smoke something stirs. The ancients knew this. That is why blood sacrifice appears in every corner of human history. From the altars of Mesoamerican temples where the hearts of victims were torn from their chests, to the hidden chambers of medieval Europe, where witches and warlocks whispered forbidden names. One theme repeats, suffering as a doorway. Why? Because fear is food. Modern science already admits every emotion carries a frequency. Love and joy vibrate high, resonating like crystal bells. But despair, hatred, terror, they sink low, heavy, dense. And it is these low frequencies that the entities of the shadow realm crave. They cannot feed on love. They recoil from harmony. They hunger for anguish. Rituals amplify this harvest. Think of them as engines, human energy generators carefully constructed to maximize output. The chanting, the symbols, the repetition of certain dates, all of it aligns with cosmic rhythms to thin the veil. And when the veil thins, the astral predators arrive. Witnesses who have survived such ceremonies describe entities manifesting from nothingness, shapes that shift, eyes that glow, presences that bend the air itself. The participants fall silent, trembling, for they know their masters have arrived. And yet, even these cultists are not free. They obey not out of loyalty, but out of terror. This is the pyramid of fear. The masses fear governments. Governments fear the hidden elites. The elites themselves tremble before the astral overlords they pretend to worship. It is not devotion, it is survival. But what of the victims? Why the obsession with suffering? Because terror multiplies energy. When a human being is pushed to the edge of life and death, when their heart races with panic, when their body shakes with dread, waves of low-frequency power explode outward. This energy is invisible to human eyes, but to astral predators it is a feast. They swarm to it, drinking it in, their forms solidifying in the glow of agony. Some rituals go further still. The cultists do not stop at simply offering fear to the entities. They too consume. In the blood of the terrified victim, adrenaline surges. From this alchemy is born adrenochrome, a substance whispered of in hushed tones, condemned as conspiracy, yet documented in occult circles for decades. To the astral entities, the fear itself is nourishment. To their human servants, the blood, rich with adrenaline, becomes a drug. They drink it, they crave it, they grow addicted. And so the cycle repeats. The entities demand fear. The cultists deliver it, and in return they receive power, political, financial, even supernatural influence. Nations are steered, wars ignited, economies collapsed, all to maintain a constant supply of suffering. Have you ever wondered why the world never knows peace? Why history is an unbroken chain of wars, plagues, and disasters? Why humanity seems forever trapped in cycles of division and bloodshed? It is not coincidence. It is not incompetence. It is ritual on a global scale. The battlefield is a temple. The refugee camp is an altar. The media coverage of death and disaster is the chant that echoes in your living room. And behind it all, unseen, the entity's feast. It is the same mechanism whether in a forest at midnight or in a city under bombardment, fear harvested, energy extracted, humanity enslaved not by chains of iron, but by frequencies of despair. And yet, there is a secret the cult does not want you to know. The harvest only works if you consent to fear. Love, joy, courage. These are shields, frequencies the astral predators cannot digest. This is why the world is engineered to keep you in panic, in hatred, in endless conflict. For if you ever rose above it, if humanity as a whole vibrated higher, the feast would end. This is the terrible beauty of rituals. They expose both the prison and the key. The prison is fear. The key is awareness. The chanting grows louder. The scream becomes a wail. And in the shadows, something feeds. There is a word whispered in dark corners of history. A word that sends shivers through those who dare to speak it aloud. A word dismissed as myth by those who fear what it might confirm. That word is adrenochrome. To understand why it lies at the heart of the occult agenda, you must first understand what happens in the human body at the very edge of terror. When fear strikes, pure, unfiltered panic, your body floods with adrenaline, heart pounding, breath rapid, muscles surging with the command to fight or flee. But in ritual settings, this natural response is twisted into something monstrous. Victims are deliberately pushed into unimaginable dread. They are trapped, helpless, staring into a terror designed to feel endless. In that crucible of fear, adrenaline explodes into the bloodstream. And from this alchemy, adrenochrome is born. On one level, it is a chemical. Science acknowledges it as a byproduct of adrenaline's oxidation. But to the occult elite, it is something far greater. To them, it is the elixir of shadows, a forbidden sacrament that binds our world to the astral predators. Why? Because adrenochrome carries not just adrenaline, but the imprint of fear itself. Astral entities do not simply want blood, they want energy. They feast on the frequency of terror radiating from the victim's field. And while they gorge on this invisible sustenance, their human servants consume the blood itself, laced with adrenochrome, as if it were a drug. Witnesses describe them as euphoric, frenzied, even possessed, eyes glowing with a madness that ordinary intoxication could never create. For the entities, it is food. For the cultists, it is ecstasy. For both, it is addiction. This is why children are targeted. Not because they are easy victims, but because their energy carries a frequency unlike any other. Before puberty, a child's energetic field is pure, unaltered by the hormonal storm that comes later. Their terror radiates at a pitch the entities crave most. It is not simply innocence that is stolen. It is a resonance, a frequency that acts as a delicacy for the predators of the shadow realm. Across cultures, the pattern repeats. Ancient civilizations spoke of life essence, harvested through sacrifice. The Aztecs called it the drink of the gods. Medieval alchemists whispered of the philosopher's blood, a hidden ingredient for transmutation. In every case, the theme was the same. Fear and blood mingled into a potent force. Today, that forbidden truth has a scientific name, adrenochrome. The cultists defend it with denial. They brand it conspiracy. They laugh at those who ask questions. But why does the laughter sound nervous? Why do whispers persist across decades, across continents, across survivors who have never met yet, tell the same story? Because the truth is too grotesque to be coincidence. Imagine a secret addiction running through the veins of royal dynasties, banking families, and occult orders. Imagine ceremonies in hidden chambers, where entities from the astral feed on the terror, while humans drink the chemical echo of that terror. Imagine leaders, polished and smiling in public, whose private ecstasy is soaked in blood. And ask yourself, why does chaos never end? Why does fear always rise again? Because it must. It must. For the feast to continue. There is another layer to this horror. Adrenochrome does not merely intoxicate. For some, it acts as a doorway. In their altered state, cultists report visions, piercing through the veil, glimpsing the shadow realm more clearly than ever. To them, this is communion, a twisted sacrament where blood opens the senses to the astral masters. What bread and wine symbolize in sacred rituals, adrenochrome fulfills in the dark inversion. But just like any drug, dependence grows. Once tasted, the hunger only deepens. The elites become prisoners of their own addiction, forever bound to supply the shadow realm with fresh energy in exchange for their high. This is the true pact between human cults and astral predators, a cycle of dependency that neither side can abandon. The victims pay with their lives. Humanity pays with its suffering. The cult pays with its soul. And yet the world is taught to dismiss it all as madness. Why? Because if humanity ever recognized what was truly being harvested, the game would end. If people understood that fear itself is currency, that terror is a commodity, that despair is deliberately engineered, it would collapse the altar of adrenochrome. This is why censorship is fierce. This is why voices are silenced. Not because of anti-Semitism, or politics, or national security, but because the secret of adrenochrome is the key to understanding the entire shadow system. For in its chemical structure lies the revelation: humanity has been turned into cattle, not for flesh, but for fear. Every ritual, every war, every engineered crisis, all lead back to the same harvest. Adrenochrome is not just a drug. It is a sacrament of darkness. It is the wine of the shadow realm. And those who drink it believe they are gods, while in truth they are addicts, enslaved to parasites wearing the mask of divinity. And this is why the elites worship the shadow realm, because they no longer can live without it. Step into the grand halls of a royal palace. Marble floors polished to a mirror shine, portraits of kings and queens gazing down with cold, timeless eyes. For the public, these halls are monuments to history. But beneath the glittering crowns and ancient bloodlines lies a secret so disturbing it rewrites everything we think we know about power. The elites are not entirely human. For decades, witnesses from inside occult circles have whispered the same story behind closed doors. During rituals where no public eye can intrude, some of the most powerful figures in the world have been seen changing shape. Faces melting, eyes shifting into reptilian slits, bodies elongating, contorting into something monstrous. And then, just as suddenly, the transformation vanishes, leaving behind a human mask as if nothing happened. To the cult, this is no myth, it is their lineage. According to David Icke and countless testimonies gathered from across the globe, the ruling bloodlines are hybrids, part human, part something else. Their genetic field carries a resonance that makes them compatible with the astral entities who control them. In essence, they are living gateways, half in this world, half in the shadow realm. This is why kings married queens who were their cousins. This is why royal houses from Europe to the Middle East, from pharaohs to emperors, obsessed over pure blood. It was not arrogance, it was preservation. By keeping their lineage closed, they ensured the frequency remained intact, untainted, resonant with the astral beings they served. Look at the dynasties that shaped history. The Windsors of Britain, the Habsburgs of Austria, the Bourbons of France, the Eastern Establishment families of America. On the surface, they ruled with titles and wealth. But behind the mask, they guarded something far more important: the hybrid seed. And why guard it? Because without it, the connection weakens. When hybrids intermarry with outsiders, the frequency dilutes. The bond with the shadow realm grows unstable. That is why incest, forbidden to the masses, was ritual among the royals. It was not merely about control of property or power. It was about ensuring their flesh remained a vessel for the astral masters. From time to time, the mask slips. Reports throughout history describe monarchs and leaders glimpsed in moments of terror or rage, their human form flickering, eyes flashing reptilian green, skin rippling like scales beneath the surface. Most dismiss such tales as hallucinations, but those who have stood inside the ritual circle know better. The truth is horrifying. Shape-shifting is not illusion, it is resonance. The hybrid body is a projection, a frequency tuned to the human spectrum. When the veil thins, through ritual, adrenaline, or proximity to astral entities, the true form bleeds through. That is when witnesses see the monster beneath the crown, and this is why the obsession with blood continues even today. In the occult worldview, blood is not just biology, it is frequency, memory, vibration. It carries the code of ancestry. A hybrid bloodline is not simply a family, it is a living antenna, transmitting loyalty to the astral realm. Adrenochrome ties directly into this. Hybrids crave it not only as a drug, but as nourishment for their unstable resonance. Their bodies demand blood saturated with fear, especially the pure frequency of children, to maintain their connection. Without it, the mask weakens. Without it, the human disguise may falter. This is why rituals follow a strict calendar. Beltane, Halloween, solstices, equinoxes, each date resonates with cosmic alignments that thin the veil. On these nights, sacrifices are not superstition, they are maintenance. They are fuel for the hybrid dynasties who rule from behind the curtain of democracy and monarchy alike. Think of it, a world where kings and presidents bow, not to the people, but to entities no one can see. Where bloodlines are preserved, not for heritage, but for hunger. Where the faces smiling on coins and stamps are masks for something alien. The Shadow Realm has many servants, but its most loyal are those whose veins carry hybrid blood. They are the keepers of the pact. They are the shapeshifters. And through them, the astral agenda continues. Now you know. Behind the masks of kings and presidents, behind the wars and crises that never end, behind the rituals whispered of in shadows, lies a single truth. Humanity has been farmed. Not for gold, not for land, but for fear. The astral entities of the Shadow Realm do not rule with armies. They rule with vibrations. They harvest terror like a crop, feeding on despair, drinking the low frequencies we emit when we suffer. Their servants, the hybrids, the bloodlines, the cultists, have built entire empires on this harvest. And, at the center of their altar, lies adrenochrome, the forbidden sacrament of shadows. But here is what they fear most: awareness. They cannot consume what you do not offer. They cannot feed on the energy of love, joy, and courage. Those vibrations are poison to them. That is why they keep the world in chaos, why they flood your life with fear, because if you rise above it, their banquet ends. So ask yourself, will you live as a battery for their hunger, or will you rise, vibrating at a frequency they cannot touch? The Shadow Realm rules only in